On today's PropTech VC podcast, we're joined by Rish Lotlikar. He's the co-founder and CEO of SuperWorld, a platform where you can buy and sell virtual real estate, but real estate that is backed by the blockchain and represented by NFTs. Rish, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Rish, you've got a great background. I'd love for you to share it and walk us through how you came to be where you are today as running a great startup in the Metaverse space.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate that. I live very globally, nomadically. So just as an interesting tidbit, I every year live in different places around the world. So love the world, love cultures, and so building SuperWorld for me is very much my passion. It's part of my heart, and very grateful for the opportunity to be able to build a world like SuperWorld. But my background I grew up in the United States. Started off my career in management consulting, investment banking. I was at UBS and HSBC in New York. Of all things, I started off in real estate investment banking. So it's kind of funny how life works out. I had no idea back then I would start a virtual real estate platform and world. But you can't connect the dots going backward or going forward, only backwards, right? So, but ended up in venture capital in New York, investing in tech and biotech. And then about 12 years ago, had a crazy idea, which was probably one of the first of my crazy ideas, which was, wouldn't it be cool to start a venture capital fund in the emerging market? So I went out to Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Russia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Moldova, about 13 years ago. And ended up taking me about a year and a half, but started a venture capital fund based in Ukraine, backed by a big investor out there, and also did the same thing in Belarus. After that was early at a company called TopTal, which is a talent marketplace backed by Andreessen Horowitz. I was an early employee and first biz dev at TopTal. So learned a lot about growing and scaling a platform and how to be scrappy and experimental and all the things that come with startups. And then about 6 years ago started Rogue Initiative Studios, which is a film, television, gaming, and virtual reality studio in Hollywood. My co-founder produced Call of Duty, Modern Warfare series, and Ghosts. And my production partner there is Michael Bay, the action director, is known for Transformers, The Island, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor. And so Rogue Initiative, what we do is we build franchises, feature film, television, gaming, virtual reality, all the way to amusement park rides and toys. And that's how I got into AR, VR. Rogue Initiative is backed by many of the top AR, VR venture capital funds in Silicon Valley and globally. And so that's kind of how my background, kind of came about. But what happened was, Pokemon Go came out about six years ago or so. And back then, it became this huge hit as, worldwide sensation. And we thought, what if we could empower anyone to build anything anywhere? What if we could build a world where the next 1,000 Pokemon Go's gets built onto it? Which is essentially, how can you enable anyone to create, discover, and monetize content anywhere in the world? And that was kind of the vision of SuperWorld.
It's funny, you came from UBS, and some of these big banks, and I know UBS pretty well personally, have been pretty slow when it comes to adopting DeFi, decentralized finance, essentially. And it's because they blame regulation. But on the other hand, when you look at what's happening with the Metaverse, it's seen as in a different light. Some of our viewers may have heard JP Morgan has essentially predicted that the whole Metaverse industry is $1 trillion plus opportunity. And they bought some land in one of the metaverses. I believe it's Decentralized, and created a JP Morgan Onyx lounge. You've even got HSBC that's bought land in the Sandbox platform. The metaverse is seen differently than DeFi. It's a place where I think people get it. And I felt this a lot with real estate folks. Crypto and DeFi feels like, okay, this black hat, shady, confusing thing where money laundering might be happening, and the finance world's all about this. They're very heavily regulated. You've got to know where your customers are. But the metaverse, wow, that sounds like the new frontier. I'm curious, you came from investment banking, real estate, UBS. traditional financing. Do you agree with that perspective? Is that the sort of fair representation of how people think about it from the corporate world?
It's a good analysis. I think that the metaverse as a term encompasses a lot of these different technologies, whether you're talking about Web3 or DeFi or NFTs or AR, VR, blockchain, just in general AI and all of these things, kind of bringing all those together. And I think that kind of combination of things, when you use that term metaverse, in a way, represents this kind of next level of the internet. I think there's, virtual worlds like Second Life and, others even before that kind of, gave brands and people a place to go. And so, I think that because of the nature of what the metaverse can be, which is a place, it doesn't necessarily, have to connote, DeFi or NFTs necessarily. And so I think because of that, per your insight, it seems like brands are more willing to embrace it because they don't necessarily, have to go down certain pathways to create content like a bank in a WebGL kind of 3D environment. I assume that they are going to go down that path and enable, the utilization of NFTs and other things. But I think, as a start on a primary level, we're talking about, typically an immersive type environment, whether in WebGL or, AR, VR. So, which is a lot more understandable for the traditional finance world.
Yeah, and a lot of the traditional finance world, putting aside the tokenization of real estate, which I'm a huge fan of and I think will really disrupt the way real estate is bought and sold. A lot of folks, and I'm in the traditional real estate sector, I'm also a venture capitalist, so I've got one foot in tech, and the other foot is in real estate, and I bring them two together, right? Investing in prop tech startups. A lot of the traditional folks in real estate have this view that crypto, yeah. We've got a couple of LPs, a lot of people that made money in crypto and are now diversifying into real estate. But the metaverse, I've never heard so much excitement before. And I think it's because it's easy to get. The idea that it's visual, it's immersive. We have spaces that we live in, and to have a digital representation of that space is much easier to understand, and you can remove all the jargon. There's a lot of jargon, and it makes things inherently complicated, and perhaps that's a symptom of an industry that was created by technology enthusiasts. But I feel like the metaverse really bridges that, And you were very interesting, and I wanted to bring you on our show because my research into the metaverse has really feels like it's very hard to connect it to real estate. A lot of these virtual worlds are fantasy worlds that don't relate to the real world that we live in. And a lot of folks like the idea of the metaverse because what comes to their head is, wow, what if you could have my home but that in the metaverse? Whereas when you look at metaverse, it's Decentralized, it's Sandbox, it's Axie Infinity, there's all these other platforms. And I don't want to lose some of our viewers, so let me explain. These are different, we call it WebGL environments or environments where you can navigate, create an avatar, but they don't represent our real world. And I was excited to bring you on because I understand you've basically mapped, in some ways, the entire planet, turned it into 64 billion unique plots of land, each one 100 meters by 100 meters, which I understand is like the size of the Yankee Stadium. And that's what you're doing. You've created that. Could you talk a bit about that and sort of the connection between the real world and the, metaverse and digital world?
Yeah, I think that's a really great, understanding of the differentiation that we're bringing to the market. The metaverse, again, to define it, is kind of this online-offline interface combination of virtual worlds. Again, the next level or next stage of the internet, kind of this persistent environment that where we work, play,
live, work, and play is what I've also heard. Yeah,
exactly. And for us at SuperWorld, what was very important is that we leverage these technologies to enhance people's real lives. So, there's a concept called play to earn, which is, the concept of you play a video game and you earn crypto, right? But, there's a lot of people that don't want to play a video game. They want to live their life and do things they're passionate about. At SuperWorld, we call it live to earn, right? Basically, how can you take tokenomics and apply that to real world behavior? How can you take, analog activities and, again, incentivize people using tokens to do things that they want to do and engage with brands that they want to do? So it's a very, very permissioned, data sovereignty, data integrity type of way where you're utilizing, again, these technologies in the real world. And then the other part of SuperWorld, again, is how do we build a better world? How do we take all these technologies, all this user activity, and really create this, way to enable people to do positive things for the world? So as an example of that, when we buy a plot of land in SuperWorld, we plant trees in the real world. We're partnered with the World Bank in the Caribbean to work on things related to hurricane disaster recovery. We did NFTs with literal countries in the Caribbean. Barbados is building an embassy in SuperWorld. We're partnered with the United Nations and UNESCO to help rebuild cities. But back to the point of the real estate, again, the real estate covers the surface of the earth. And so when you're buying real estate in SuperWorld, you're buying places where you do live, work, and play, where you do spend time in the real world. Because it might sound ironic, Zain, but we're building a virtual world that's actually focused on your real life. I want to keep you in your real life. Again, we want to be a life-enhancing platform, not a life-escaping platform. There's this movie called Social Dilemma that came out a few years ago on Netflix about how we're all living in these algorithmic bubbles. We're all staring at our phones all day. Kids are just plugged into computers, and people are obsessed with their next Instagram or TikTok post. And for us, I want to keep people in their real life and use these technologies to bring that to enhance your real life. And then on the property side of that, back to prop tech, is how can we enable people to become stakeholders? If we're moving to a geospatial environment and you agree to that, if you agree that that's where the technology is going, and if you agree and you understand that Pokemon Go, as an example, was the fastest company to $1 billion in revenue, all of that revenue happened in geospatial locations, right? And what if you could decentralize those locations and enable people to buy them and then become key stakeholders in those locations, enable those people along with everyone else to create anything anywhere. And so you create this kind of, marketplace of opportunities and enable people to own those places where all that activity and opportunity occurs.